I've been part of search and rescue in the Sierra Nevada region for over 10 years. I've dealt with bear maulings, dehydration deaths, and hikers who fell from cliffs so steep we couldn't even retrieve their bodies. But the story I'm about to tell you is something else. Something that doesn't fit in reports. Something I've never shared publicly. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't think anyone would believe it. Her name was Ella Peterson, 19 years old, college sophomore, straight A student, and a hiking enthusiast. She'd gone out alone on a 3-day solo backpacking trip. Nothing extreme, just a familiar loop through Dead Horse Ridge, a notoriously quiet part of the forest where hikers go for solitude. She logged her route with the ranger station and left on a Monday. By Thursday afternoon, she hadn't returned. No calls, no messages. Her parents reported her missing, and we were mobilized at sunrise on Friday. Our team of 5, me, Jenna, Louise, Marcus, and Brandon, had mapped out the grid. By 6 a.m. sharp, I'd taken point in the northwest sector. It's steep terrain, with switchbacks, ravines, and thick pine growth that blocks the sun by noon. Strange thing was, from the start, the forest didn't feel right. Search and rescue is usually a methodical job. You follow signs, broken branches, prints, pieces of gear. But this time, it felt like the forest was avoiding us. That's the only way I can describe it. No birds, no rustling in the brush, just oppressive silence. I've never known the woods to be so still, even in winter. By late afternoon, Jenna radioed in. She found something, part of a jacket. Sleeve caught on a branch about a mile off trail. Ella's mom had said she was wearing a gray windbreaker. This matched. There were faint boot prints in the mud nearby, but they weren't going in any clear direction, almost like she'd been walking in circles. The prints led us into a gully surrounded by tall trees. That's where we found her. Ella was standing in the center of a mossy clearing, barefoot, dirty. Her hands were hanging loosely by her sides. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling for help. She wasn't even reacting to our flashlights, just staring ahead like she was in a trance. I approached slowly. Ella, it's okay. We're here to help. She turned her head toward me, and that was the moment I felt something wrong deep in my chest. Her eyes didn't focus. They just scanned past me, like she was looking through me. And then she smiled. But it wasn't a normal smile. It was wrong, too wide, too calm. There was no relief in her face, no fear, no recognition. Just that vacant expression and that too big smile. Jenna wrapped a thermal blanket around her and gently guided her toward the trail. Ella didn't resist, didn't speak, didn't even blink for nearly a minute. When we reached the ranger cabin at base, the medics checked her out. She had a few scratches, mild dehydration, and oddly, no signs of hypothermia despite being barefoot for at least 2 days in freezing temperatures. When asked what had happened, she only said, "It let me go." Nothing more. We kept her overnight for observation. She lay on the cot, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Every now and then, she whispered. The nurses said she spoke in fragments. It watches when we sleep, or it made room inside. That kind of thing. Later that night, while I was still writing up the report, I saw something on the security feed that froze me. Ella sat upright at 2:14 a.m. without any prompting. She walked over to the window and looked out toward the trees for almost 7 minutes, motionless. Then As if on cue, she raised her hand and waved, slowly, deliberately. When I checked on her, she was asleep again, or pretending to be. The next morning, her parents arrived. Her mother screamed when she saw her. "That's not my daughter," she said immediately. "That's not her face. That's not how she smiles." Ella showed no reaction. She just stood there and stared at them like they were strangers. Later that day, she vanished. No signs of forced exit. No footprints leading away from the cabin. Her bed was untouched, her shoes still on the floor. She was just gone. We organized another search immediately. This time we focused near the clearing where we found her. About 300 meters from it, we discovered something chilling. 2 sets of footprints. One was barefoot, hers. The other? It looked human, but the strides were wrong. Too long. And the depth of each step indicated a body weight far heavier than Ella's. We followed them until they simply stopped, as if the earth had swallowed them whole. 3 days later, Brandon went missing. He had gone back alone to scout a ridge that had recently seen animal activity. He never returned. We found his radio and his boots, neatly placed side by side near a hollowed tree trunk. His name was scratched into the bark above them, carved in shaky, erratic lines. We never found his body. After that, I left the team. I didn't give a reason. I just handed in my badge and walked away. I haven't been in the forest since. But sometimes, I still dream about her, about Ella, standing barefoot in that clearing, head tilted, eyes vacant, smiling that unnatural smile. And in those dreams, there's always something just behind her, tall, shadowed, watching me, and it always waves. I volunteered with search and rescue for about 5 years before I burned out. In the Appalachians, the work is heavy. There are so many trails, caves, sinkholes, cliffs, so many ways to vanish. Most cases are just sad. Dehydration, broken legs, heart attacks. But once in a while, you get something else. Something that sticks with you forever. Scott Jameson was 42, ex-Marine, weekend adventurer. He disappeared on a solo hike outside a remote stretch near Elkins, West Virginia. His wife said he had left early, Friday morning, and planned to camp overnight near Blackroot Ridge before returning Saturday. When she didn't hear from him by Sunday morning, she drove down herself. She found his car parked at the trailhead, untouched. She called it in by noon. We mobilized right away. The team was small. Me, a guy named Curtis, 2 newer volunteers, and Tom, the local coordinator. We started combing the trails by 4 p.m., checking known campsites and off-trail spurs. We found signs, recent boot prints, a torn strap from a backpack, a few granola wrappers. Normal stuff. But it led us somewhere unexpected. A tunnel. It wasn't on any of our maps. And trust me, the Appalachians are mapped to hell and back. Old mining shafts, railway cuts, drain tunnels, they're all supposed to be cataloged. But this one, no signage, no fencing, just a low arch cut into a hillside, half covered with vines. It was maybe 6 feet tall, built from old stone and brick. The entrance was black, like a mouth, and from inside, we heard it, screaming. It was faint at first, just a sound carried by wind, maybe. But as we got closer, it became unmistakable, high-pitched, pained, echoing. I'll never forget it. It sounded like a child or a woman screaming and sobbing over and over. Not constantly, intermittent, with pauses, like someone was running out of breath. Curtis wanted to radio base. Tom said, "Wait, let's check it out first, in case someone's trapped." So we geared up. I clipped the headlamp on, switched to wide beam, and went in with Curtis behind me. The tunnel was cold. I don't mean it's cooler underground. Kind of cold. I mean the kind that sinks into your bones. We'd been hiking in 80-degree heat, and within 10 steps it felt like winter. The walls were damp, moss-covered, and then the screaming stopped. I called out, "SAR team here. If you can hear me, yell back." Nothing. We pressed deeper, step by step. The light barely touched the walls. Something was off about the acoustics. My voice didn't echo. It was like the tunnel swallowed it. Curtis whispered, "It's too quiet." I nodded. My boots echoed louder than they should have. My breath, too, like the tunnel wanted us to hear ourselves. 20 yards in, the tunnel curved slightly. Around that bend, I found something on the ground, an old camping lantern, battery-powered, still blinking dimly. I recognized the brand. Scott's wife said he always used that model. Beside it, scratches in the wall, deep ones, long random. They weren't made by tools, more like claws, and they weren't decades old. Fresh dust lined the grooves. That's when we heard a new sound. Not screaming, whispering. Curtis spun around. "Did you say something?" "No." We stood still. The whispering continued. Voices, not one, but many, layered and breathy, just out of clarity, like people chanting behind a curtain. Then Curtis's flashlight flickered and died. "Battery's full," he said, shaking it. My light held steady, but it dimmed slightly. I felt this vibration in my chest. Not from sound, from the space. The air grew thick. The whispering rose and fell like breathing. We backed out. Didn't run, but I could tell Curtis wanted to. I did too. When we got out of the tunnel, the sunlight hit like a punch. I hadn't even realized how dark it had felt inside. The two newer volunteers asked us what we saw. I told them to mark it on GPS and back off. We needed a full team and base approval. We radioed the ranger station. No one answered. That's when I noticed the weirdest thing. Our GPS units were blank, frozen. Mine said we were still at the trailhead, miles away. Curtis's was the same. The compass spun. Phones had no signal, which isn't surprising out there. But still, not one bar, not even emergency. The forest around us suddenly felt different, like the shadows shifted. The birds were gone. The wind had stopped. Everything had paused. Then we heard the screaming again. This time, it was outside the tunnel. It came from the woods, to the east, near where the trail curved uphill. Curtis grabbed the radio and tried again. "Base, this is Curtis. Are you reading me? We have auditory on a possible subject. Screaming, moving east. No visuals." We moved toward the sound, bushwhacking through undergrowth. I counted every step. Something in me screamed not to go any farther, but training kicked in. 10 minutes in, the voice came again. "Help me. It's inside me." Closer. We found a clearing. No man. Just a circle of scorched grass. Perfectly round. About 6 feet wide. No signs of fire. Just blackened earth. In the center, a boot. One boot. Size 12, covered in dried blood. Curtis knelt beside it and picked up a folded piece of paper half buried beneath the heel. It was damp and torn, but still legible. Don't go in the tunnel. It follows you out. That's when we turned and saw the shadow. It moved behind a tree, tall and fast. Too tall. Its shape was wrong. Narrow, elongated, almost bent backward. But it had arms, legs, a head. It watched. Then it vanished. We bolted back. No shame in it. That was not a person. It didn't even move like one. Back at base, we reported everything. The officials were skeptical, said we were exhausted, dehydrated, possibly hallucinating. But they never sent a follow-up team. They didn't even log the tunnel. When I checked with the county a week later, they claimed no such structure existed in that sector. But I know what I saw. I went back a month later on my own. Brought cameras, GPS, 2 recorders. Nothing. The tunnel was gone. The hill where it had been was just dirt and trees. But something had changed in me. At night, sometimes I hear whispering beneath my floorboards. Sometimes I dream about walking through cold stone hallways with no end. Sometimes I wake up and my feet are dirty. And on my voicemail, I once got a message. Heavy breathing. And one word. Help. We received the call on a Wednesday morning, 6:42 a.m., over the dispatch radio. A hiker named Rachel Knox, 27, had failed to check in at the Apgar backcountry office after a 3-day trip through the quartz Lake Loop in Glacier National Park. She was experienced, cautious, and had a spot GPS beacon that hadn't pinged since Sunday night. That was the first red flag. We mobilized fast. Glacier isn't the kind of park where you wait around. The terrain is harsh, the weather changes without warning, and wild predators roam the same trails humans do. I've been SCR in Montana for 6 years, and even in the best conditions, the mountains take lives. Our team of 4, myself, Anna, Raj, and Caleb, set out by 9:15 a.m. The last known ping from Rachel's GPS came from a spot near Upper Quartz Lake. We started there. By early afternoon, we found a trail of boot prints. Deep, consistent. It was her size and matched the brand her brother told us she wore. They led down toward a narrow ridge, where the woods thickened and swallowed sound. We followed carefully. That's when the radios started acting up. We use long-range comms with dedicated emergency bands. They rarely fail, even in valleys. But here, static bled into the channels. Anna's voice cut in and out. Caleb swore he heard someone else on the line, a whisper. That didn't come from our team. It said, "Don't trust it." We thought it was interference, but none of us said that line. It wasn't a voice any of us recognized. We moved faster, hoping to reach the lakeside clearing before sunset. We didn't. The forest grew dense. Pines towered over us, blotting out the late afternoon light. It felt like we were being watched. I know how that sounds. But even Caleb, stoic, tough as nails Caleb, gripped his flare gun tighter. At 6:17 p.m., we heard her. Hello? Someone. It was Rachel's voice. Clear. Sharp. It echoed through the trees like it was being funneled directly to us. We turned east, pushing through brush until we reached a hollow. There she was, Rachel Knox, sitting on a rock near a stream, her backpack beside her. She was pale, covered in small scratches, and stared at us with wide eyes. Anna ran up first. "Rachel? You okay?" Rachel nodded. "I'm so glad you found me." I got turned around. My GPS stopped working. Something's wrong with this forest. We helped her up, gave her water, and started the trek back. She walked slowly, her legs weak but steady. She answered questions. Her voice was calm, quiet. She remembered details: what trail she took, where she camped, what she ate. It all checked out, but something felt wrong. The real clue came during a break. Caleb offered her his spare gloves. It was getting cold fast. Rachel smiled and said, "Thanks, Caleb." We all froze. None of us had introduced ourselves by name. I looked at Anna. Her eyes narrowed. Raj didn't say a word, but his knuckles turned white on his walking stick. "How do you know his name?" I asked. Rachel blinked. "You told me." "No," Anna said. "We didn't." Rachel paused, then smiled. I must have overheard it, but there was something in that smile. Too wide, too smooth, like it was rehearsed. We continued walking, but we were on edge now. The forest grew darker. I kept catching her glancing back, like she was watching the trail behind us. Once, I saw her mouth moving silently. No words, just movement, repetition, like a chant. 3 miles out, we stopped for a final rest. That's when Raj whispered to me. Her reflection in the stream didn't move. "What?" I saw it when she was drinking. The water rippled, but her reflection stood still. I tried to laugh it off, but the fear was already in me. An hour from base, Caleb fell behind. I turned and called for him. Silence. Then, screaming. We rushed back. His gear was scattered across the trail. One boot. His pack. A torn piece of jacket. Blood. A lot of it. No sign of him. Rachel looked confused. "What happened?" I turned to her. "You tell me." She stared back, eyes cold now. "I don't know." Then she smiled again. We raised our weapons. Flare guns. Knives. Anything. That smile stayed frozen on her face. Then, she said something I'll never forget. I was never lost. I just needed a way out. And then, her skin shifted. I swear to God, it moved. Like a ripple under flesh. Her face distorted, like a mask bending at the edges. Her eyes turned dark. Not black, dark like a cave. No light. No soul. We backed away slowly. Rachel, or whatever it was, tilted her head, then walked into the woods. Just walked away. We didn't follow. We carried Caleb's gear back. Reported everything. The rangers chalked it up to trauma. Stress. We were told to rest, take time off. But here's the thing. 2 weeks later, a group of hikers found someone in the same region. A woman, lost, sitting by a stream. She said her name was Rachel Knox. Same face, same age, same backpack. They brought her in. She didn't remember being rescued before. She didn't remember us. But this Rachel? She cast a reflection. And when Anna asked her, quietly, "What happened to the other you?" Rachel frowned, then whispered, "It followed me out."